This is the Intermission Podcast.
We want to get to know our homeboys and homegirls and invite you into our space.
It's a whole mood of positivity.
The Intermission Podcast. All right. Welcome back to the Intermission Podcast, The Break with Your Homegirls.
This is part 2 of our conclusion. Men are trash, but are they? And we're talking to our married boys.
That's right. That's right. So roll call again. I'm Jessica E. Williams, aka CEO J Will on Instagram.
And I am Jessie Denise.
And I'm Ivana.
And remember, we're talking to Tony and Roger. This is the continuation from part 1 of all the incredible gems that they drop. We told you, you better have pens, papers, spiral notebooks, iPhone notes, Android notes, Evernote, all the things, some water, prepare your edges to be snatched, all of that. You know what I mean? Make sure you are prepared as we get into part 2 with the Married Men right here on the Intermission Podcast.
I never want to have it be like 3 months later and me being like, I can't believe I said that to her. I can't believe I made her feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't, you know what I mean? And that's giving the key to the wrong dude in the wrong situation. Yeah. So
to your point, Tony, it's like there's a I always say there's a king and a kid in every man.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Who you speak to or who you give the keys to is who will respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's who's driving. And that's great, man. I 100% agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a level of emotional maturity that's like, yeah, who are you giving the keys to? The kid or the king? Which one? Today. I love it.
Hey, and not only that, to just add on to that, who you give the keys to when your wife not around, right? Like like when your wife is not around, when you with your boys, who's behind the wheel? Like when you with other women socially, and your wife is not around, who got the keys? Because I know some guys that act completely different when they around their boys and when they around their wife. Mm-hmm. And I know some guys that act completely different around other women when their wife is not there. So like, you got to have a designated driver, man. You got to make sure that like, you stay in control. And it ain't just about when you're interacting with your wife, man, because she's always your wife everywhere that you go. And so like, and if you know that like you get around your boys under certain energy, you liable to let the wrong person drive. That's how you ruin marriages. That's how you get in circumstances that you can't get out of. That's how you get dirt on you that doesn't rub off because you acting different someplace else.
And to that point, I feel like that goes to my point of like, who is that circle, right? Like my wife and I have a marriage contract, written document that like we don't make new single friends in our married space. That's for us. That's not for everybody, but that's for us. Why it's not a dig to single people, but like we're not moving the same way. We're not moving in life in the same space. So the things that you want in life is not the things that I'm doing. So if I'm liable, if I go out with y'all hunting, I'm not hunting. So I'm already in a space that I shouldn't be in because that's not what I'm doing.
Yep.
So all those things come into play about who you really trying to be. Like not just for someone, but for you. Who are you really trying to be yourself and act accordingly?
That's true. I appreciate you because A is my girl. So I snuck in.
Right. You got, because y'all came in, you got it right.
We were talking about that. Like Jess and I, we knew Tony before marriage and after marriage, but we met Roger and Adrian.
Yeah.
When they were already married.
Yeah.
But
man.
I was like, I appreciate y'all because I know y'all single contract.
Yeah, we don't really do that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that.
But that comes with trust too. And we had another question about like your single sisters, because I know that you guys do have that contract, but you are still a covering for single people. Like I know that when I date, I know that they have to meet you first. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, that's different, right? It's not, that's a covering space. That's like a family space. That's like, that's that for me. There's a demarcation between like that and like I'm divulging all of my, how this is what's going on in my marriage. This is what's going on in our relationship. Like that's probably not going to happen that way because I have to draw some boundaries, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that like I love anybody less or I love somebody more. It's just demarcation. It's just making sure things are clear.
Exactly.
But yeah, and we are thankful to be able to be that for folks, and because someone was that for us. So we want to make sure that we're opening that door. Yeah.
Because it's important for single women to know that they have that covering.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's like we're uncovered until we have our husbands. So it is like, okay, our brothers in Christ are covering until we have that. So to have that trust and that support and, the whole thing is something that I know I'm grateful for, because I know I can't just bring no knucklehead around. Like I can't just bring anybody around because there's a crew of my brothers who are going to be like, hey, so what are your intentions with my sister? You know what I'm saying? So that is something that is very important. And another question we had, because both of y'all wives are fine. I might add, because like y'all have all this stuff and how they are, like y'all have awesome, like super dope wives, but they're also fine. Like sometimes, you see people, you're like, how'd they get together? You know what I mean? It's like, not
he
that
must be really funny.
It's like, not that they're important, but it's like, okay, he likes her. She's a good woman, but y'all got good women that are like hella fine and hella cool and, just like down to earth. Kids, y'all got 5 kids total, beautiful children. But you kind of answered this, but what does your wife add to you? Because you said you came into your marriage as like 2 whole people, but I'm sure your wife still adds something to you as a man.
Yeah.
I don't want to go first.
Oh, you go, Roger. You can go.
Adrienne, she's I don't know, man. It's hard to say. So many things, and I don't want to sound like, oh, look, you're just trying to big. But really, she is. I'm gonna start in the most obvious place and work my way backwards. As a parent, as a co-parent, she's the best thing that's happened to any of us. I tell my children point blank all the time, you need to be thankful for your mother, because if it was just me, your life would suck.
That's real.
She is intelligent. She is learned. She brings so much intentionality to the raising of our children. It's not that I'm like a crappy dad, but she's just that good of a mom. And so she brings so much of that to the table. As a spouse, my wife was divorced before, and her perspective brings so much to our marriage, because we move with the statement sometimes there are worse things, right? So Roger left his shoes in the hallway. That's hella annoying. There are worse things. Like, she has the ability to see a bigger picture, because she's lived in a space where things went a different way. That's a huge perspective that comes into our marriage that I'm super thankful for, because it colors how I see things as well. And I can try to not to make mountains out of molehills and just have some perspective about what this really is. And then zone in on something that's super important. Like, this seems small, but like, nah, bro, we really need to deal with that. So her perspective that she brings to our marriage, and she's hilarious. She's super funny. I'm gonna get crappered saying this out loud, but yeah, she's super funny. She may not be as funny as me, but she's like made like a little bit more. A little bit.
Like, so much of my life, like in my history, like either on purpose or not, I've had to put like filters up. I don't want to say I'm fake, right? Like, I don't want to say I'm fake, but there's these filters that I put up, right? So like, when I'm hosting an event, like, whether it be a live show or something like that, like, I step into character. This guy's a little more like rude than I am in real life, and a little bit more honest than I am in real life. And he's got a design. I'm trying to do something. When it comes to like work, like, for my career, work as a marketer, there's like all of that, like, smoke and mirror. right? Like, still yourself, but like there's these filters on there. And always trying to make a good impression or come across smart or come across. With my wife, I a 100% genuine self. I do there's no filter. It's just me. All of me, right? Like the silly me, the smart me, the confident me, the insecure me, the scared me, like all of it. I get to be all of it. And there has been nothing, like we talk about a woman so fine, that there's nothing that she's never shuddered away at my ugly, right? Like, if I'm on some Belle and B stuff, right? Like she never smelled my ugly or seen my ugly and thought any less of me. And, and she's seen me, she's seen me, at times where like my own body image and self-image, I didn't want to take pictures, right? Like, I put on weight and I didn't feel like I was attractive. And she saw that, you know what I mean? Like, and still, sat in my lap, and encouraged me. Well, then, do something, baby, go for a walk, you know what I mean? Something, but never like, judging, you know what I mean? When I told her that creatively, my fire had gone out and I wasn't feeling like I had any creative juice. Well, how can we get it sparked up? So I think it's those very intimate moments that she brings to me a sense of peace and a trusted advisor. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a safe space, like a safe space to catch my breath and to recalibrate. I appreciate that quiet so much. I really appreciate that quiet. It's very important for me.
That's awesome. I love it, man.
I love it.
And as human beings, don't we all want that? Like, that's what we want. Like, somebody just, except all of me. Cue the John Legend, okay?
Especially when you're like in entertainment. Because when you're in entertainment, there's like this perception of you that the world sees, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone is always seeing that like big person that, whatever your persona is on the television. And then when you come home, you don't want to have to be that person. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes when you are in the dating space, people expect that person at home. And then they're like, wait, you're not the person I saw on the stage you're not the comedian I saw all the time. Like you know what I mean? So that is.
Yeah.
And I imagine you want that on both ends, right? Everyone wants that. Everyone wants someone who's there to accept the full parts of them, the full brevity of them, of who they are, and to be a safe space that I hope that I'm producing for my wife, and I know that she's producing for me, also allows the other person to leap, right? To like push, to go and do things. She's my springboard, and I hope that I'm hers as well, because I'm providing a foundation for her to go and launch, because I know that's what she's doing for me. I know where I am in my career and how she's impacted that push for us, because she's the advocate, and like, no, we're not taking less than that. And no, we're going to do this. And no, I don't think so and we do that for one another. And you want that. You want someone who's in your corner, who knows all of you. Like those are crucial desires.
Yeah. And I think I love what you said in terms of the reality of it, in terms of like, you're out there trying to be somebody, but it's like, even if that fails, like, because it happens, you know what I mean? Sometimes you leap and there ain't no bottom on the thing, but you still are able to come back to the space that's safe, and no one's gonna, you're not going to be judged for it. They're not going to be talking about you in the comments. Like, in fact, they might be wanting to get down with the people in the comments. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things that I always have a home base and a safe space that I can come to. That's not, going to judge me in the way that they will out there.
Yeah. Right.
Which is life goals. That's hashtag life goals. Okay?
Right.
That's what we want.
The marriage goals.
The marriage goals, the life goals, all of that. So segueing from the single experience to the marital experience to fatherhood, right? We were talking about this after the pre-production meeting, and we were saying that there are some people, I feel like parenting is a thing that, like, for the most part, everybody will experience, right? Like if you make the decision to have a kid, right? So it's like, you might not ever be married, right? But parenthood is something that I feel like you will evolve. You will have to evolve. It will force you to evolve. in some way, shape, or form. So how is fatherhood, would you guys say, like, why does it tie into you evolving away from the trash, right? Because it might be something where, like we've talked about, where, you know, your spouse, you might not be in a position to hear that, but your child, like Tony said, you can never not be, you know, your child's parent. That's a permanent bond from the time they're here till the end, you know? So how does that evolution tie into in terms of parenting and fatherhood specifically?
You know, I think you hope you hope it's evolution. Like I know some trash dads that's making some trash kids. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I know some dads that never did it in their 20s, and they little boy got good hair, and they want to live vicariously through this kid. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I know a lot of that. I know there's a lot of sins of the father that just the continuity is going to be bananas, right? Like, you know, and that goes to, like, you know, crap in, crap out. If you got crap inputs, you're going to get crap outputs. And if, like, you haven't, you know, done the work that you need as a husband and as a father, you have the real opportunity to do real damage to this kid, because all of the things that were not corrected in you are going to manifest themselves in that kid, right? Like, the only variable is your wife and your marriage, which is, for me, the most important role that I have in this house is being Kendra's husband. That's the most important job that I have, is being a good husband, because I cannot be a good father in this home without being a good husband first. Because these kids, we need teamwork. Like, we need to run the plays the way the plays are supposed to be run. And we cannot be everything that we need to be for our children if she and I are not on the same page. My oldest daughter, Kennedy, is on the autism spectrum, which means that parenting is really different. I'm not saying difficult, I'm saying different. Parenting a child on the autism spectrum means things that are supposed to be simple can be very complicated and very hard and very stressful. So not only do we have to manage the stress of our lives, but we have to manage the stress of parenting and parenting with special needs, right? So it's very, very, very complicated. And what it'll do is it'll make you get good really, really quickly. And so she and I being aligned with, like, what's going on with us emotionally, where we are, like, is autism kicking our butt today? That one of us needs to go for a walk and get some fresh air, because I don't know what else to do. Like, that's like true partnership. And so, you know, that everything that I had learned trying to be a good husband is, like, it manifests itself so many different ways because it's consistency, right? Like, you know, and, you know, my relationship, like, I'm raising daughters. So, like, not only will they see how I treat them, but they'll see how I treat their mother. And that's an imprint that, like, is very important for me to, like, you know, on their lives. It's very rewarding, but it's like the next level. Like Roger was talking about, like, 30 hour, how, like, the game just keeps, like every time you think you've reached the maximum level, it gives you something new to master, like, about yourself and about family and about COVID and about race. Like, I haven't talked to my kids about race. Like, I don't want to steal that innocence from them. Like, they're still young, right? Like, you know, but I have to think about that, and how am I going to do that? And when is that, you know, appropriate? And what I tell them about race in America, trajectory am I going to put their lives on, right? Like, you know, like, if I tell them, like, you know, white people are bad, you know what I mean, and cops are evil, well, she may be in a situation where she's running from a man and sees a cop but doesn't trust him. Like, it's just layers, you know what I mean, of, like, teaching and preparing a human for the world. It's the most challenging thing that I've ever done. It's probably the most important work I'll ever do.
Thanks. Yeah. Roger, what you got on it?
Just lay your initial question out for me again, just because I want to.
So we're just talking about So in terms of the evolution, like I feel like kids make you have to evolve. Like we said, hopefully they'll make you have to evolve. So how do you think that evolution, the tie-in of being a parent, how does that make you evolve? And the father, yeah.
Okay. I think on that evolution portion for me and how I've grown and who I am from my children, I think they help in that they have unlimited demand on you.
Unlimited.
There's no stop in them, and rightfully so, because they didn't ask to be here. You brought them, and you owe me, right? So I get to get anything that I want from you, and so they press on me, they press on us as parents. It's a good press, and sometimes it's a bad press, but it's a good press, right? And because they're growing and they're learning, and the force that they put on you to be on your game is real, because the stakes are so high. I think because to Tony's point, like there's so many things that you can teach wrong, or you can teach impartial that can be problematic, or you're just trying to give them the best, right? Scripture says, like, as parents, we're to aim our children, right? So they're like bows, and they're like arrows in our bow, and like the idea is to aim, right, and then release. Now, I don't get to grab you and track you to the target. I can't do that. I can't pull you back and restart it. I have to aim, and then I have to release. And that's a hard place to be, because there's so much fear in that, because when you release, man, like, and all that, and if anyone's ever shot a bow and arrow before, like, like the breathing that takes place, and like the patience, and like you're looking, you see the target, but you don't, all the wind, the slightest movement of your body, everything is up for grabs that can dictate where that thing goes. And the way I can't afford my arrows to go awry, I just can't afford it. Not in today's world. We got to hit targets. We got to get where we got to go. And I'm not in control of exactly where you go, right? Like, that's a part that I'm learning with my teenage son, who's 13, of like, as I see him grow and mature, and I'm like, no, I want you to do this. I'm aiming you for this. This is where I saw you go. Well, I don't get to dictate all of that.
Right.
He's going to grow into his own man. He's going to decide, I want to make this adjustment, and who is in me and who in my DNA. I like this, and I'm tracking to this. And it's really humbling parenting. It's really humbling, because you don't know if you've done it all right. And you'll see the fruit, and then it will be lasting fruit. It'll live in front of you every day, whether or not you kind of completed your task or you fell short. Yeah. And I'm like, man, that keeps me up and keeps me going, right? Because I'm like, I don't want to be a 50-year-old man looking at my children going, man, I didn't impart into you this. Right. I imparted too much of you this. I didn't allow you to speak, so you don't speak now. I didn't let you challenge things, or I let you challenge things too much, and now like all these balances, these levers. So it's a very challenging space, and it forces you to evolve. I'm thankful to have a co-parent. I'm thankful to have Village. I'm thankful to have all the tools at our disposal in raising these children. I'm thankful that my son can call my good friends who are like his uncles and lean on them if there's something he feels uncomfortable about, or what. I'm thankful that I can be that for other children, for guys and my friends who their kids lean on me. I'm thankful for the Village and the community that we built for our children. Last bit, and I'll get off of this. The last thing that over the last few years I've been learning, and my parents, especially my teenage son, is like, part of my job as a parent is like friend control, right? And I say control, it sounds like, but really what we're doing, because you're like, man, I can't determine who my kids are friends with. No, I can't. But I can set up parent relationships. I like how you do life, right? So my son will think like, those guys are my friends because I chose them. Yeah, but also my wife and I cultivated an experience for you, so that you build relationships with these people. So like I'm playing this thing from both ends, bro. Like because I can't afford you to just be out with some knuckleheads because birds of a feather don't flock together, and I can't afford that. So you think you just picked these people, but this thing was engineered. And we worked hard for it.
Inception.
Right.
So yeah, that's that last part.
I love it. Yeah, that's what Tony's taking notes.
I am too.
Tony, right now.
And release. Second bullet. Arrange friendship.
Bro, I'm here for it.
That's wisdom. I heard Donald Glover put it like this about kids. He was like, it's just a lot of planting and like programming, and then you kind of just see what happens. You just try to instill what you can. And I always think of kids as like, spiritually, I feel like they are a spirit having a human experience, so they already come here whoever they are, right? And so it's just a matter of guiding them along the path to get them to the totality or the fullness of whoever that person is. But there's only so much helicopter parenting. But I love that inception. That's a Jedi mind trick right there. Like, you think these are your friends, but like, these are really my friends who have kids, and like, we want all y'all to be friends. I feel like I came up in a similar environment. So
you certainly did. Smart. You certainly did.
I did. And also, you got to know you got to shed some people, because I came with some folks that after a while,
100%.
like, this isn't working anymore.
100%.
So know your seasons. Saying all that to say, hopefully everyone on here has been parented, either in a single parent household or a 2-parent household or a combination. And so saying all that to say, before y'all were fathers, y'all were hopefully fathered by someone. And so what relationship to your father do you feel like impacts the way that you love your wife and parent your children? Or if your father wasn't there, how does that also apply?
Yeah.
One way or another.
I'll go. Yeah. So I've got an amazing father who I'm 100% certain was a horrible husband. So no, like I'm going to be like, my father is a fantastic man. He's hardworking. He's a gentleman. He's a man of integrity. Everything about me, my engine, the way I work, like he's got like to personify my dad. My dad has amazing penmanship. Like he's one of those guys who you look at how they write and you go like, wow, look at your penmanship. Like the attention to detail, right? And so like I've got amazing penmanship because I take that from my dad, right? Like, I get up early, I work, I grind, I get at it. All of those things have fueled one part of me. My father was all provision and wasn't presence, right? Like after my dad provided, like he was just like, I checked all the boxes, I'm out. So, and a lot of men of that generation, that's how they were defined.
Yeah.
So the one-on-one, like I never had a conversation, and I have a father in my life who like I love dearly. We never talked about women. We never talked about how to choose the right wife. The most advice that my dad ever gave me on the subject was, son, if you wait, you'll be able to choose from the cream of the crop. That's the most sage advice that my dad ever gave me, was to wait, right? Like, from a my marriage standpoint, I 100% look at the contrast of the relationship. My divorce, by the way, they divorced my senior year in high school. I examined everything that my dad did and made a conscious decision to do the opposite of that in my life, right? My father was one of them kingmaker dads. You couldn't tell him nothing because he paid for everything. Right? Like, the kids couldn't say nothing to him. The wife couldn't say nothing. Couldn't nobody really say nothing because I pay all the bills in this house. Well, I pay all the bills in this house. My wife still has a lot to say because that was a conscious decision. I see how that created conflict in their marriage. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Not only am I not going to do that, I'm not going to ever bring it up. which is something my dad used to do about everything. If your room wasn't clean, how dare your room not be clean? I pay all the bills in this house. If you sleeping until 10:30, how dare you be sleeping 10:30 when I pay all the bills in this house? Like, and so I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Oh,
I'm 100% like not going to do that. So I identified like two quick things. One, my dad got married. My dad and mom got married young. They got married at 21. Clearly way too early to get married. They were 100% not right for each other. So I was like, I ain't doing that early, right? Like, like I learned, like, I'm not going to get married early. One, I'm not going to let like me being the bread maker, be, the deterministic factor. And secondly, I'm not really going to go to my dad for advice. I'm not going to go to men who don't have successful, thriving relationships and seek their counsel about marriage. Mm-hmm. That has been how my dad framed it. So one part of it has absolutely fueled where I am with my marriage and my family. The hard work, the security, the good engine, the good motor, the high RPMs, all of that. The nuance, so the provision got from my dad. The presence I've had to learn on my own, but have used my father's flaws as a husband to help navigate and map my path. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, his flaws have 100% allowed me to be successful. And I thank him for that. Like, it's a weird backdoor kind of blessing. Like me not hating him or not resenting him, but rather being able to look at him as an individual, see everywhere that he stepped in correctly, and be like, you know what, in some way, shape, or form, that had to happen in order for me to not make the same mistakes. It wasn't by his counsel. It was just purely by like me witnessing his steps. And so I'm very thankful for him and his flaws because it's made me a better husband and a better father.
Big facts.
I think that's terrific. I share those sentiments. My father is similar in that respect, that I was learning a lot from the things that he did or didn't do, and letting that inform me. And I think that the thing that I see in Tony, which I pray for so many folks, is that you arrive at this place not resentful.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's that unforgiveness tinge that we roll with when this happens, that forces us to then become that person. Mm-hmm. Right. The forgiveness allows us to have a perspective that there was a reason why you did what you did. There's some understanding. I'm going to seek to understand why you made the choices that you made. Right. And what you were up against and what life was for you in 1950, like what you were dealing with as a Black dude in this country to be who you were and what the expectations were of you. Like me having an understanding or a desire to understand who he was and how he became to be the man he was and what father he had and who was my grandfather to him, and who was he not, and how that shaped who he was. When I took it away from being I had to realize he wasn't trying to do something to me. Right? My dad wasn't trying to be bad to me. Mm-hmm. He was only being who he knew to be. Then I didn't take it personal anymore. And then it opened up a place of forgiveness. And then from that place, I'm right where Tony is in that now I can learn from you. And so that I was fathered in that respect. And then I was fathered by committee, right? Like I have so many strong men in my life that taught me very like small slivers and imparted into me very small slivers. So I this concept of village was lived out for me, from godfathers to uncles to big cousins to all those elements of like just small moments, small little fractions in time where someone was like, why do you do that? No, don't do that. No, don't do that. Oh, you should do this. Like just small little course corrections in the shaping of me. And so by all those elements, you maturate into the person you are. And so in that respect, I'm praying for my children to have a similar experience. I want to be all of that I can be, but I recognize that even if I'm not, and even in my failures, that the God that I serve is so intentional about raising me who I'm supposed to be that he'll supplement me. And that for me gives me all of the peace to actually get some sleep at night, because I know that even in the spaces that I don't hit the mark how I want to hit the mark, that they're supplements, and you can still become a good person and not have been given good, if you would.
Yeah.
And it still works, and that part for me is a real blessing.
Deep stuff.
I love
deep
that,
stuff.
man. I love that, bro. That's fantastic.
And you guys have already touched on this, but we're also talking about the point of father wounds. You know, we all have that stuff, which you guys have kind of talked about in terms of like, how has that affected the way you parent and the way you approach marriage? And I think you guys have done a beautiful job of sort of answering that without asking it, of being like, you know, once you move your personal feelings and your hurt of, again, it's like, you can only evolve to the point that you evolve to, and then you become a parent. And if that's where you've evolved to, you know, that's what you have to give. And if you at some point, you know, throw up your hands or say, this is, you know, I don't feel like evolving past this, then you're leaving that example for the generations behind you to see. So
yeah, I feel like I can't state it enough how important forgiveness is.
Yeah, man.
I feel like, and trust me as a parent, you're gonna want it. You're gonna want it from your children. Yeah. Because when they come up and they point at you and say, what the hell what was that about? How come you didn't? You're gonna want that grace. So to give it is paramount, because I've seen it in other children who have not forgiven, and then they just, you can't help but become that thing. And it's so detrimental. It's like we think we're doing the other person this big favor by forgiving, but the truth of the matter is that's all about you. It's all about you, bro. You should really do that.
It really is.
Yeah. All right, we're coming down the home stretch. You guys have actually already touched on this as well. Societally, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like we're in the era of like girl dads, and like fatherhood is cool, and like dad gang, and like all of this stuff, right? That's great. But you guys also touched on the other piece of, especially as Black fathers, right? There's a level of, you know, racial inequality and disparity and the breakdown of the Black family. And so that has affected previous generations of how people have parented and fathered, and how people have experienced fatherhood. So just from y'all's perspective, getting from, you know, the sort of darker chapters of our past when it relates to fathering in the Black community to where we are now, where it's almost like a celebrated thing. It's cool to be an involved dad, not just a provider, but like present. So what do you guys think has been some of the just cultural things that you guys feel like has made the shift to that? Because I think it's awesome, but, you know, we want to keep that same energy going forward.
I think it's a big part of it is it's one of the more positive components of social media, because through social media you can get a front row seat to like what some of these dads and moms are doing. Whereas all we had before, like prior to that, it's like Maury Povich, I'll take care of my kids. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if I find out the baby is mine, I'll take care of him. And that was the narrative. Like that was the narrative. That was the narrative everywhere you went, was that like Black dads are crap dads. You know what I mean? And it was manifesting itself everywhere. And you didn't have, like, maybe you knew a couple of good dads around you, but like you couldn't see enough of the world to know whether that was true or not. Right. And what social media has done is it's opened the door into these homes, and you see dads being fun and being silly and being involved and, you know, picking apples and doing all of this different type of stuff that, like, to not be on that really puts you as an anomaly, right? Like, you know, because so much of our day-to-day is being broadcast that I think you really get to see just a lot of good dads. I know for me, like, it's really cool to see so many narrative shifted. And I don't know how or when. I can't pinpoint it, but like, you cannot be a negligent dad and be my friend. I just don't have, like, I don't have respect. Like Like if I find out, like if I hear from the grapevine that like you was out spending dough, but your kids need, you know what I mean? Like I don't have any kind of respect for that kind of man, and which is interesting because men for the most part are very blind jurors when it comes to passing judgment on their friends, right? Like like some men will see their boy cheating on their wife and won't say a thing. Won't say nothing to him, won't say nothing to her, may not say nothing to anybody. So, so men will pass a blind eye to a lot of misbehavior. But one of the things that is very clear is, why aren't you taking your kids? And that is new. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know when that seed was planted, but I think that's a beautiful part of social media is that, you really get to see a lot of really good dads putting in a lot of good work, more so than just the baseball diamond or the basketball court. You see them doing art with their kids, the daddy-daughter dances with their kids. Like, it's beautiful, and I think it 100% has changed the narrative.
I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's it is. I agree with the social media component of it. It's tricky for me. I'm not a cynic in this, but there's a part of me that feels like there's a fickle part of it that I worry about, right?
Yeah.
That like because men are so driven by points, right, and praise, right? So like you see all this hype and praise about being a good dad, and so folks are like, man, let me be a good dad. Like, just be a good dad. Like, just be a good dad. I don't need you to post this. Just be a good dad. So but I'm thankful for the byproduct, right? And my prayer is that it sticks and it takes root, and that it is beyond the orifices of social media, and that people are really doing the work and really making the effort. Because I want to see the seed of it, and we'll see the seed of it with the generation. We'll see the babies, and we'll know, right? We'll know if it was for show or not. And the hope and the prayer is that it's real. From my experience, in the minute to Tony's point, like I couldn't connect and do life with somebody who was a trash dad or a trash husband. Like we just couldn't roll this way. So from what I see, I'm very happy with that. I'm very positive and feel very good and very uplifted. Have a lot of hope about the fathers that I'm seeing, the husbands that I'm seeing. And so that's super exciting. And I hope that it's the waves of that are really trickling further and further and further out. Because we certainly need it. I think the part that the cynic of me, I'm looking at some of the seeds. Yeah. I'm going, now what happened there? Like everybody good father, but like what happened there, and I'm just wanting people to rise. I think a lot of that has to do with where we are just as a society, you know what I'm saying? Like we expected the ills and some of the things that we're dealing with to be capped off at a certain generation, and because I'm seeing them younger and younger, I'm going, what? Yeah. I thought we were all doing a thing and parenting away and like raising away. I thought we were doing a thing, and like, So, but I am hopeful about from the spaces that I'm in and the men that I'm seeing and meeting Tony, and again, like the fathers that I'm meeting. I'm super hopeful and excited about what I'm seeing.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we are at our wrap-up question. So we've already talked village. We've talked, how important it is to pour into other people pouring into you. What are y'all parting words we want to leave the people with about mentorship, how important it is, like, get somebody that's mentoring you. Any parting words y'all have about that? And if you want to shout out some people that are pouring into you and people you're pouring into. So
I'll go first because I can give Roger the last word. First of all, Roger, what a beautiful brother, man. Like what an absolute beautiful brother, man. Like, you know, like everything just about you, I just respect, man. Like I just think you're a beautiful dude. Like no doubt. You know what I mean? And I, you know, known you for all of 48 hours. But I just, you know, he's a good man. Like it's a good man. And I think, you know, you pick up on that like good man radar, right? Yes. Like, you know, like he's a good man. He's a good man. And what you really start to pick up is you understand that like good men come in all shapes and sizes and backgrounds, right? Mm-hmm. And they have different narratives and they come from different spaces. So like, don't judge a book by its cover. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like just because someone may not go through the narrative that makes sense to you or that you're familiar with doesn't mean that you can't find, you know, love and respect. We talk about like Village and the Marauders, right? Like Roger comes from the Village. And the Village, they have certain code and respect and honor. Well, the Marauders have that too. Their behaviors are different. Their goals are different, but they have a sense of family and purpose and honor. They're just objectives. One is to build a village. The other is to tear it down, right? So, you know, we can talk about their goals. We can talk about their goals. Yeah, like sure they might have like different objectives, but like, you know, but you can find that anywhere. And I think, you know, for mentorship, you know, for me, I try to be the type of person that I wish I had around me coming up. I try to be better than the examples that I had. I also try to be really candid because it's very easy to present like this level 40 maturity and this level 40 wisdom and level 40 understanding. I like to be nude in front of my mentees. I like them to see, look at all the things that I did, right and wrong. I want you to identify me as a fully fleshed out person. Like whenever I study the Bible, I've always been fascinated with the men in the Bible that were the most flawed. I identify with failure. Like I identify with mistakes. I identify. So I've always been curious about the men in the Bible that made mistakes and their narrative and how those mistakes did not define them, but rather were a part of their overall story. So that's my approach to it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I try to mind my own business for the most part, but I do have people that I think see me in such a way that they will ask me, what do you think about that? And for the people that I really about, if I see them going astray, like I will intercede casually. But I am very mindful about like juggling dynamite. And I am very mindful of getting somebody else's mud on me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I run a tight ship, you know what I mean? And like Roger said, like, you know, I can't be porous for the wrong kind of energy and the wrong kind of vibe, even in a spirit to help and offer assistance, right? I will end up in the quicksand with you. Sometimes the best that I can do is advise from like the shoreline. So, you know, I believe in it. I am a fan of everything that Roger said in terms of, you know, doing it the right way, putting the right support system around you. I believe that like I think got lucky because I have a good internal navigation system and I was raised in the church. So I think I've got a rooted sense of direction. But without that, you got a lot of people, I think, making the wrong mistakes because they do not have the right guide rails. Their lives are not established with like firm margins, and that allows them to like, you know, go outside. So, and then for you ladies, you know, I just think these conversations are just so good, and I think they're so important. And I just want to just applaud everybody on this particular show. You guys are all very beautiful and wise, and it's been like filling for me, you know, and I'm supposed to be like the panelist, and I find myself taking notes for listening. So this has been just fantastic for my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Roger, man.
I share the same sentiments as Tony, man. I appreciate you guys bringing this together. It's always good to meet another, just a dope dude, and a father and a husband, and someone who is full of wisdom.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of wisdom.
Always has.
And yeah, man, you don't come across that all the time. And so I appreciate that. So it's been nice just to be able to have a conversation with a like-minded person around these issues. In terms of mentorship, I am a product of mentorship and thankful for the Mike and Nina Stewarts who have established our marriage mentorship program. And I'm thankful for my own mentors, Corey and Latoya Saxton, who rode with us and held us down. And I'm thankful to be a mentor in return to folks and my wife and I as we partner with that. And glad to just be in the space. And I want to we kind of started this conversation from the single perspective and this idea that, you know, the men are trash, but are they, right? This whole idea. And I think to women, I would say, this is a great forum to be able to listen and be about the work for your own self, for who you want to be and what type of person you want to be. I'm thankful that women are most times kind of at the forefront of asking these questions, right? And men don't necessarily, are not always at like the cusp of like, how do I get better? Or what do I need to do to prepare for marriage and all those things, right? We kind of find that when we have these ministries, even at church, like the singles ministry, like there ain't no dudes there. Where all the dudes at? They're not concerned about being single, right? But I for fellas watching and for them, I say, you know, be concerned about being the best you. And for women as well, just be concerned about being the best you, because at the end of the day, when it happens, you want to be in position to take advantage of it. Because what you don't want to live with is not being ready and an opportunity come and then you can't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Or that you file it over. As a man, you file over a woman because you weren't ready, or as a woman, you file over a situation because you weren't ready. I think the important work of doing the work in yourself and asking the tough questions about yourself. And if you don't know what questions to ask, then ask, what questions should I be asking? I'm single. What questions should I be asking? I don't know. Where should, what type of things should I be inquiring about? You know, there's good literature out there. There's really good books out there. And so I just encourage folks to just to stay about the embetterment of yourself. Because at the end of the day, you make yourself better. You make everything better. It's just a win, as opposed to how do I find this something, or how do I get something, and then so I can have something. I think that the order it needs to be adjusted.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps a lot. So yeah, I'm thankful and appreciative to have been invited, and hope Tony and I represented you guys well.
Yes, so well. Thank you so much. Like both of you are just awesome men. Like I love you both so much. And like Tony, just seeing you going from being a single man to a married man has been just amazing to watch. And Roger, like you just coming into my life already a married man, but like Roger wears a shirt to church that says, "I love my wife's butt." Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
hey, she bought it. I rock it.
Like, but men, like, especially men in the church, sometimes you think they're gonna be like this stuffy and so this, but like he wears it to church. And it's like it's normalizing loving your wife, but like also thinking she's sexy. Like things like the little things like that are what I always pick up on and I pay attention to, because it's like, okay, it's okay for you to be in the church and to be a Christian, but for your man to think that you're sexy, like, just little things like that I just really appreciate. So I knew you guys would mesh well. So thank you so much for being here.
So fellas, before y'all go, please let the people know where they can see more of you, hear from you, glean more of your wisdom. Tell us what you got coming up, what's going on, how can we support you? Let us know.
My wife and I host a podcast called Red Couch Chronicles. We interview married couples. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus just with all the COVID goodness, but we're working our way back. But yeah, that you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on YouTube, where most of the episodes are, or wherever you get your podcast from. It's all there. But yeah, we enjoy doing that work. We're fans of marriage. and fans of dissecting it and picking it apart and asking questions about it and how do we do it better. So yeah, Red Couch Chronicles.
Big facts. We'll put it on
marriage all the time.
Right. All marriage all
Marriage all the time. He hates it.
You almost got me. That's what's up, man.
So what's up with you?
Yeah, so make sure you're following me at Multitoned on Instagram. I got a bunch of stuff coming out. I've got a series of children's books. Yes, we do.
With Daddy?
Yeah, we could do some homework. Give me 5 minutes, okay? Go set the timer.
Okay.
Okay?
This is all staying in, by the way.
Of course.
Okay.
Listen, that's what I keep telling you, bro. This is life.
Parenting. Yeah. So at Jesus, baby. At littlereaders.co. At littlereaders.co. My 2 children's book. One is My Authentic Terrific Autistic Sister. The other is a book called Too Much Sauce. You guys will love that. You'll love the Book of Tone, which I am finalizing right now, which is a new take on the Old Testament. And some other stuff kind of coming through. So I'm feeling very creative.
Awesome.
Oh man, so y'all gotta look out for that. We're gonna make sure we have it on the page as well, so y'all can stay connected, stay up, soak up more of this wisdom. So it's been awesome. This has been Men Are Trash.
But are they?
The finale. We hope you guys have enjoyed it, learned a lot, grow a lot. Share it, man. Leave some comments, do all your things. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Roger. Y'all know what it is, man. It's the Intermission Podcast. Love, live life. We'll holla at y'all. Thanks.
Bye.
We'd love to hear from our homies, so feel free to email us at intermissionhg, as in homegirls, that's intermissionhg@gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at intermissionhg. Until next time, this has been A Break with Your Homegirl.